Madera and Quext family, we want to welcome you to our first ever Good Stories with Josh and Oscar. I am Josh Haynes and
I'm Oscar Mendoza.
And we want to take the next few minutes to do nothing other than encourage you with good stories from great things that are happening around our country. One of the things that we believe, or at least is important to us, is we believe we live in a world where we just hear too many bad stories, too many stories of hurt or pain or anger or whatever it is.
Absolutely.
And we just want to encourage you with some good ones. We want you to know that there are good things happening within our world. And so I'm going to turn it over to Oscar for the first story that kind of touched your heart.
Yeah, so the first story takes place at a Dairy Queen in Minneapolis in the middle of the pandemic. And a gentleman basically started something even more amazing than the Dairy Queen blizzards that they serve. Isn't that right, Josh?
Yes, everybody loves ice cream. At least I think they do, or at least they should.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, so basically this gentleman started by what he said was, whatever they ordered, I'll also pay for it. And after that started to continue, and one of the cashiers posting it on Facebook, everybody in the town wanted to get involved in this. And they would tell, the person behind that they wanted to pay for the person behind them, once they mentioned that their meal was already paid for. And then, imagine your ice cream is paid for, but then you pay $50 for the carload of kids in the back door. In the back car behind you. And, it's amazing. Some even offered, to give their change. They started like a little fund, because sometimes people just absolutely didn't have that much money, and so that's how they continued. The very last car for that first night paid for the meal for the very next day. Wow. And basically 2.5 days later and 900 cars later, the chain was finally broken after all the funds were gone.
Yeah, that is crazy. 900 cars paying for one another. That is definitely something I am certain that the workers at Dairy Queen, even in that little town right outside of Minneapolis, man, those people are never going to forget that.
Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah, I want to take you to California, actually. And this story started in 2019 with a lady named Pam. And Pam Willis is her name. She was sitting at home and she was kind of scrolling through Facebook when all of a sudden she comes across this story of this family of 7 children who were actually in foster care. They were in foster care because just a few months previous, their family had been in a horrific car accident and the parents had been killed.
Oh, that's tragic.
The kids actually even spent time hospitalized because of their own injuries. And Miss Willis says in reading the story, she knew in the moment that those children were supposed to be hers, that she was supposed to take up the mantle of being her mom, or their mom. And so, interestingly enough, she tags her husband in the Facebook post so that he at least has a little bit of a heads up of what she's thinking. And when he gets home, she expects to have to convince him, to have to try to get him to get on board with this idea. And the first thing out of his mouth is, I think we should try and adopt those kids.
Wow, amazing.
So they call the number at the bottom of the screen. They reach out, and apparently thousands of other people who at least put in an interest call to kind of see what was going on. And they got a chance to meet the kids a few months later, actually. Their names are Adelino, who was 15, Ruby is 13, Alicia is 9, Abriella was 8, Leo was 5, and Xander was 4. And these kids had been through a ton of trauma because one of the other issues that their family had been through is that their parents had battled addiction. And so at different times in their life, they'd experienced bouts of homelessness. With all of the things that were going on, Gary and Pam decided that they were going to push through and do their very, very best to get to these kids. And in August of 2020, they officially adopted all 7 children. And because it was pandemic time, like what you had mentioned just a moment ago, they rented a huge big screen television and went to a local park. Their own 5 biological grown children zoomed in, and they had a massive adoption ceremony in the park just to enjoy the good that had been happening across their town.
Wow, adopting 1 or 2 kids, life-changing already.
Yeah.
But then imagine having to, take in another 7.
Oh, I know. Absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. What else you got?
Well, so we got what they call the 50-yard challenge, and
Okay.
not football related at all. But this basically brings us to West Texas, where an Alabama man by the name of Roddy Smith founded a 2015 program called Raising Men Lawn Care.
Okay.
And he admitted that when he first started, this is not something he did not want to do, mainly because, I mean, if you remember when we were kids, who liked to mow the lawns?
Yep.
And and even this program, he wasn't all in until he noticed how many lawns were being done part of this program, and the more lawns that were done, the more he got excited about it. Well, 1,000+ kids registered for this Raising Men Lawn Care, where it brings us to West Texas, where the Clough brothers and the Breedlove siblings, who completed 50 yards and were given a free lawnmower, a leaf blower, and a weed eater,
Yeah.
which was all provided by the Amazon wish list and donations from all kinds of people that donated to this organization. They did also mention that girls also can sign up for this program. But
Yeah.
imagine that's 100 yards that they did during
Yeah.
the pandemic times.
Yeah.
So-
And when you say West Texas, if I'm not mistaken in this story, that is Ransom Canyon, right?
Correct.
Just outside of Lubbock. And then what was the other city?
Also Meadow.
Meadow, just
Yeah.
down the road from us.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that is absolutely awesome. We also want to finish by giving you not just a heartwarming story, but one that also kind of challenges us to be the type of people that we aspire, not just to be as individuals, but also as a company. The CEO of Charles Schwab was Walt Bettinger. He tells this story about being a college student where he is in the final class about to take his final exam, and up to this point he has a 4.0 perfect straight A GPA going. He enters into this final exam into his room, and he goes and finds his seat at his desk when he realizes on each desk is this blank piece of paper, and he thought that was kind of odd because he had spent so much time studying and memorizing formulas for various calculations and all these case studies and whatever else. And the teacher basically stands at the front of the class and he says, you can go ahead and turn over your piece of paper. And he turns it over and it's blank. And the teacher explains, interestingly enough, I've already taught you everything that I can teach you over the last several weeks of this course, but there's one last thing you've got to learn. And everybody, interestingly enough, is just kind of jumping in and listening, and they want to know what's going on. And he says, here's the exam's final and only question. What is the name of the lady who cleans our building? And he knew in the moment he was going to fail because he had not yet met Dottie. He had walked past Dottie multiple times. He had seen her constantly throughout his years and his time in the business program, and yet he had not taken the time to meet Dottie. And he got a B in the class, the only B he got in all of his time in college. Wow. And he talks about how he deserved the B because when we go through life, it is an invaluable effort and an invaluable thing for our hearts to meet the Dotties that we see around us.
Sure. So
here's our thing. For those of you who are out there on properties, for those of you who are doing all sorts of great work around the company, we simply want to say that we thank you. We hope to meet you someday. We hope to say this to you in person. Thank you for all the work that you're doing. Sure. And then also to provide you at least a few minutes where you are encouraged with the fact that there is good things and there are good people and good stories going on in our world. And so, Oscar, I'm going to give you the last word.
Just stay tuned for good stories with Josh and Oscar. And if you see us in the hallways or anything, feel free to come say hi to us. We'd love to know you and know your story.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you guys for joining us.
Thank you.